Imagine a jagged scar of a valley in Afghanistan, its ridges bristling with enemy fighters, their muzzle flashes like vipers' eyes in the fading light. 381 Navy SEALs are trapped below, their ammo down to final clips, each bullet a countdown to silence. The enemy closes in, machine guns chewing rock, surface-to-air missiles locking the sky. Commands already drafting the loss report, their pens cold as the orders to stand down. No helicopters can reach them. No jets can shoot close enough to matter. It's a tomb, and everyone knows it, except one voice. A 26-year-old A-10 pilot, dismissed as too green, too emotional, straps into her Warthog and defies every rule in the book. Captain Lena Harper, a name no one on base respects, is about to rewrite the fate of 381 souls. What happens when one woman's courage turns death into defiance? You're about to witness a story that'll grip your heart and shake your soul. If tales of unsung heroes light a fire in you, smash that like button, subscribe to HeroHush Stories, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and share this with someone who needs a spark of grit. Let's step into the storm that changed everything. Kandahar Air Base, Afghanistan, July 2011. The sun scorches the tarmac, a relentless haze that turns the flight line into a shimmering mirage of heat and dust. Rows of A-10 Thunderbolt IIs, Warthogs, squat and brutal, squat under the Afghan sky, their 30mm GAU-8 cannons gleaming like a promise carved in steel. Lena Harper, 26, walks past them, her flight suit loose on her slight frame, auburn hair pulled tight under a faded Ohio State ball cap. Her boots crunch on gravel, each step a quiet rebellion against the label she's been given, logistics officer. To the brass, Major Daniel Conway and his circle of weathered colonels, she's a desk pilot, good for fuel logs, ammo counts, and training rookies. Too emotional, they whisper in the ops tent, their coffee mugs clinking over her name. Stick to paperwork, Harper. Lena's life is a tapestry of unseen resolve. Born in Dayton, Ohio, in a clapboard house where the hum of her father's garage was the heartbeat of her childhood, she grew up under his stories of Vietnam. Jack Harper, a grizzled Air Force mechanic, would sit her on a workbench, his hands black with engine grease, and trace maps of jungles he'd never seen from the sky. Machines don't win wars, Lena, he'd say, his voice rough as the socket wrench he spun. People do. Know your craft, and no one can take it from you. At 10, she was rebuilding lawnmower engines. At 16, she was poring over aviation manuals, her fingers smudged with ink. By 22, she was at the Air Force Academy, graduating top of her class in aeronautics, memorizing A-10 schematics while classmates chased bars and weekend passes. Now, at 26, she's the youngest pilot on base, but her wings are clipped. Conway keeps her grounded, assigning her to inventory checks or formation drills with new lieutenants, her name erased from the flight roster. Her days are a grind of routine. She wakes at 4:30 a.m. in a prefab barracks, the air thick with dust and the hum of generators. Her bunk is a narrow cot, a single photo taped to the wall, her father in his Air Force greens, grinning beside a C-130, his eyes fierce with pride. She dresses in silence, her flight suit patched from a tear she stitched herself, and heads to the ops tent. There, she logs fuel burns, checks maintenance schedules, and trains rookies who barely know the Warthog's stick from its throttle. The A-10 is her obsession, its titanium tub, its 7-barrel cannon that can shred a tank at 50 meters, its stubborn refusal to die under fire. She knows every bolt, every quirk of its targeting pod, every hum of its hydraulics. But Conway sees her as a liability, not an asset. "You're not ready for combat," he told her last week, his voice flat as the clipboard he handed her. "Lead by staying out of the way." At night, when the base falls into a restless hum of distant mortars and cooling engines, Lena sneaks into the simulator bay. The lock is a flimsy pin tumbler, she's cracked it with a paperclip and patience. In the dark, the sim screen glows, her only witness as she runs scenarios no one else dares, valleys too tight for F-16s, SAM sites buried in cliffs, SEALs surrounded with no room for error. She maps the Korangal Valley by hand, her pencil scratching topo lines on stolen satellite prints, marking folds where terrain could mask a low run. She calculates ballistic arcs for 30mm rounds, memorizes radio codes for ground teams, and practices danger-close shots, bursts so precise they'd make a veteran pilot's hands shake. 53 runs, each tighter than the last, her eyes burning from hours without sleep. She whispers to the screen, "I'll be ready." For what? Her gut churns with a premonition she can't name. Something's coming, and it's not a drill. In briefings, she's invisible. She sits in the back, her notepad filled with sketches of ridge lines and wind patterns. Once, she raised her hand, voice steady despite the stares. What if the enemy baits us into a trap where air support fails? Korangal's a choke point, narrow, high walls, SAMs in the ridges. Conway cut her off, his mustache twitching. Track fuel, Captain. Leave strategy to the flyers. Her jaw clenched, but she nodded, her hazel eyes smoldering. Alone in her bunk, she studies anyway, poring over terrain data, wind charts, the A-10's limits. The Warthog's cannon can punch through steel, but only if you know exactly where to aim. Lena knows. She's traced every rivet of that airframe, every glitch in its INS. But no one asks for her maps. No one sees the fire behind her silence. Can one woman's preparation outweigh a system that buries her? Her nights are haunted by her father's voice. "Know your craft," he'd said, his hands steady as he rebuilt a carburetor. Lena carries that lesson in her bones. She keeps a letter in her locker, written in her neat, slanted script, "If I act, it's because lives were on the line, and I couldn't wait for permission." It's her failsafe, her confession, her vow. She doesn't know when she'll need it, but she feels the weight of it every time she passes the Warthogs, their noses pointed to the sky like hounds straining at the leash. The base hums with tension, rumors of SEAL ops, whispers of ambushes. Lena's gut screams louder, the valley's waiting. Will she be ready when it calls? July 17, 2011, 1:47 p.m. The Ops Center siren rips through Kandahar's haze, a wail that freezes blood. Screens flicker to life, painting a nightmare in red and blue icons, the Korangal Valley, a jagged bowl of rock and death. SEAL Team 9, 381 strong, is pinned in its center, surrounded by 800 enemy fighters. Machine guns rake from 3 ridges, their fire carving craters into the SEAL's position. 2 SAM sites lock the sky, their radar pings a death knell for helicopters. F-16s, 20 minutes out, can't shoot within 100 meters of friendly strobes, too risky for their precision-guided munitions. The SEAL's radio crackles, voice tight but controlled, Trident 1 to base. 30 minutes of ammo left. Hostiles at 50 meters. The ground commander's cadence betrays the truth, time's bleeding out faster than their rounds. In the Ops Center, chaos reigns. Screens pulse with data, enemy positions, wind speeds, SAM locks. Major Conway paces, his face a mask of sweat and strain, barking for options. The room offers doctrine: wait for F-16s, deploy drones, hold the line. Lena steps into the light, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. Send the A-10. I can hit within 50 meters. I can save them. Conway's eyes narrow, his voice ice. You're not cleared, Harper. You've never flown combat. Sit down. A comms tech, a young sergeant with shaking hands, cuts in, SEALs report 25 minutes of ammo. They're dying, sir. Lena's pulse hammers. She counts seconds in her head, 10 minutes to suit up, 12 to the valley. A window so thin it's a razor's edge. She slips out, her boots silent on the concrete, her heart a drumbeat of purpose. In her locker, the letter waits, its words heavy: if I act, it's because lives hung in the balance. She adds a line in sharp pencil, 381 Americans, Korangal Valley, 2:19 p.m. Then she moves, fast and sure. Aircraft 412, her Warthog, sits ready, full 30mm drum, for Mavericks, rockets, flares. She checks oil, hydraulics, chaff, INS, her hands dancing through pre-flight like a ritual. The cockpit smells of metal and jet fuel, a sanctuary of purpose. 90 seconds later, the A-10's engines roar, a guttural growl that shakes the tarmac. No tower clearance. No authorization. On the guard frequency, her voice is steel, Thunderbolt 9, departing Kandahar. Inbound Korangal. 381 Americans pinned. I'm breaking rules to save them. Wheels up at 2:19 p.m. Conway's voice erupts on the radio, Harper, return to base. That's an order. She mutes the command net, leaving only ground and CAS channels alive. Why risk her career, her future, on a single choice? The Korangal Valley opens below, a cauldron of dust and fire, its ridges jagged as broken teeth. Seal strobes blink like desperate stars in the bowl's center, surrounded by red icons, enemy positions closing in. Trident 1's voice is ragged but steady, Thunderbolt 9, mark IR. We're bleeding out at 50 meters. Lena banks hard, her eyes scanning ridges she's memorized from stolen satellite prints. East Ridge, machine gun nest, 60 meters from friendlies. She dives, the A-10's nose dipping low, and fires a 2-second burst of 30mm, dust blooms like a storm, the gun falling silent. Roll, pull, climb. North slope, assault team, 70 meters out, charging with rifles high. A half-second tap carves a line in the rock, bodies scattering. No blue strobes hit. Solid hits, Trident 1 calls, voice cracking with relief. West Ridge, 75 meters. They're closing fast. That's danger close, too tight for F-16s, but not for her Warthog. She slices left, aligns the reticle just below a rock lip, and pulses a quarter-second burst, tungsten threading a needle between SEALs and hostiles. The valley holds its breath, the air thick with dust and silence. Did she just defy death, or invite it? Conway's voice crackles again, sharp as a whip, Thunderbolt 9, you're done. Return now. Lena ignores it, her focus locked on Trident 1's designations. She's past orders, past doubt. The playbook she's run in secret, 53 sim iterations, unfolds like a map in her mind. First, kill the SAMs. She locks a Maverick on the southern site, firing from behind a ridge. Fire blooms, radar pings vanish. She banks low, using terrain to mask the second SAM's lock, then pops up to shred it with a short burst. The sky opens. Now, the crossfires. She targets key positions, not the loudest ones, machine guns anchoring the ridges, their arcs pinning the SEALs. Short, surgical taps of 30mm rip through rock, dust cloaking the SEALs' advance. Push west, Trident, she says, her voice calm as steel. Stay low under the rock lip. I'm walking rounds ahead. The SEALs move, their blue icons shifting on her screen, 3 teams, then 4, flowing through a shallow fold she'd spotted months ago in grainy photos, a seam no one else saw. Can one pilot's defiance outmaneuver a valley of death? The radio shifts, panic giving way to precision, moving. Set. Next bound. In the op center, screens show Lena's A-10 carving impossible arcs, rounds landing within 25 meters of friendlies, ranges that break every rule. A colonel, his face pale, mutters, she's either insane or a surgeon. So far, surgeon. An RPG team flanks from the north, their rockets arcing toward the SEALs. Lena dives, flares popping like stars, and a half-second burst erases the threat, dust swallowing the muzzle flash. East spur clear, she calls. Move now. Helicopters spin up in the distance, their rotors a faint thrum. QRF trucks snake through the valley's edge, dust trails marking their path. The tide turns, but it's fragile, a single mistake could unravel it all. Lena paints the final ridge, 2 IR winks guiding her gun. Mark 1, Trident 1 says, voice steadier now. A bright flash blinks, she splits it with a quarter-second pulse, the ridge exhaling dust. Mark 2. Another wink, another burst. The ridge falls silent. LZ workable, Trident 1 confirms. Rotors inbound. Chinooks roar into the fold, their blades kicking up brown clouds that choke the valley. Lena circles high, her eyes hunting threats. A PKM team shifts low, trying to rake the LZ. She snips it with 3 rounds, precise as a scalpel. A SAM seeker chirps, its tone sharp in her headset. She's already moving, dropping low behind a ridge, the missile finding only rock. She pops up, spots the launcher team displacing, and ends them with a merciless tap. The sky stays hers. The first Chinook lifts, heavy with seals, its dust cloud swallowing the LZ. Lena holds her orbit, a guardian carving Z's in the sky. A second bird lands, then a third, each one a miracle of timing. Chalk 2 lifting, Trident 1 calls. We're green. An enemy element tries a desperate sprint, rifles high, shale kicking under their boots. Lena writes a bright, short line of 30 mm between them and the LZ. The sprint stops. Chalk 4 lifting, Trident 1 says, voice clipped with formality. All aboard. We're off. The final seals board a tailgate bird, small and stubborn, barely clearing the dust. Lena rakes the ridge one last time, not to kill, but to warn, not today. Not while I'm here. The valley falls silent, wind and dust reclaiming the fight. Trident 1's voice cuts through, formal as a vow, Thunderbolt 9, 381 souls accounted for. 0 Kia during exfil. We owe you our lives. Lena's reply is quiet, steady, copy. Her hands are steady, but her heart races. What price will she pay for rewriting the rules? Lena lands at Kandahar at 3:42 p.m., the runway stretching like a judgment under the Afghan sun. The Warthog's engines wind down, their growl fading to a hum as she pops the canopy. Heat floods the cockpit, thick with jet fuel and dust. A crowd gathers on the tarmac, maintainers with grease-stained hands, medics clutching kits, clerks and pilots standing shoulder to shoulder. It's not a cheer, not a pep rally, but something older, respect, raw and unspoken, etched in their eyes. Lena climbs down, her flight suit damp with sweat, her cap pulled low. Major Conway waits with Major Hayes from the Inspector General's office, their faces unreadable. A knot tightens in her gut. She stands at attention, ready for the storm. You broke orders, Harper, Conway says, his voice carrying across the tarmac like a gavel. You launched without clearance, engaged at ranges we don't allow, ranges no one allows. Lena meets his gaze, her hazel eyes steady. Yes, sir. And I brought 381 Americans home. 0 Kia. A long pause hangs, heavy as the heat. Conway's jaw tightens, but his eyes soften, just a fraction. You'll answer for this, he says, quieter now. But first, tell us how you did it. Every step, every calculation. I want it on paper by dawn. Hayes steps forward, his clipboard untouched. You broke protocol, Captain. But your protocol saved lives. We won't reward disobedience, but we'll fix what failed. The debrief is a marathon, a gauntlet of questions designed to dissect her choices. Lena answers with precision, not bravado. She spreads her maps across the table, stolen satellite prints, topo lines scratched in pencil, red circles marking SAM sites and crossfires. She explains her sim runs, 53 iterations of danger-close scenarios, each one a battle against hypotheticals no one else ran. She recites ballistic tables, wind corrections, radio codes she memorized when others slept. I knew the valley, she says, her voice steady. I knew the Warthog. I knew the seals couldn't wait. Hayes leans forward, his pen still. You gambled, he says. Lena shakes her head. I calculated. The room falls silent, the weight of 381 lives settling like dust. No medals come, not yet. Instead, Lena's reassigned to close air support training, her shoulder patch now reading CAS development. She builds from the ground up, teaching what she lived, read the terrain like a story, every ridge a sentence, every fold a word. Short bursts, not streams, dust as cover, not chaos. Talk to the ground, not the ego. Her classes fill with pilots, JTACs, even SEALs who were in the valley, their notebooks open in the front row. One, a grizzled chief with a scar across his knuckles, nods as she speaks. You were our sky, he says later, his voice low. Lena doesn't reply, she doesn't need to. 6 months later, doctrine shifts, slow but real. Danger close rules loosen, guided by Lena's data, 25-meter engagements are now guidelines, not walls, when lives are at stake. Simulator syllabi add her modules, count rocks, not just waypoints, breathe with the ground team's rhythm. A quiet award ceremony brings a distinguished flying cross, its ribbon pinned in a small room, no cameras, no fanfare. The real reward is a number pinned in the ops center, 381 extracted. 0 Kia. Pilots touch it like a relic, a reminder of what's possible. Lena avoids that hall, not from humility, but clarity. Luck and skill danced too close that day. One wrong burst, one missed ridge, and the number could have been 0. Commands now seek her out. A windy border valley. She writes a page on crosswind gunnery, unasked but adopted. A night op with failed strobes. She trains thermal pattern reading, cutting fratricide risk with timing, not lights. A city block with friendlies upstairs, hostiles below. She publishes a checklist, 3 radio calls, 2 angles, that saves lives in a firefight 6 months later. It's not heroics, it's craft, shared freely. Letters arrive, no return address, a challenge coin, a unit patch, a scrawled, you showed up. Lena keeps them in a tin box under her bunk, next to her father's photo. She never opens it on flight days, a ritual to keep her mind clear. One evening, after a training hop, she taxis in, the Warthog's engines cooling under the Afghan stars. A crew chief, grease on his hands, sun etched in his grin, looks up as she climbs down. Ma'am, if I'm ever pinned, I know you've walked the map's edge. Lena nods, her cap low. The map never ends, she says. You just draw the next line. Her father's voice echoes in her mind, know your craft. She's still learning, still tracing bolts, still writing notes in margins no one else reads. This isn't just Lena's story, it's a mirror to our choices. When the system says no, when lives hang in the balance, will you draw your line? Captain Lena Harper turned a valley of death into a road home, proving skill and courage can rewrite fate. If this story lit a fire in you, salute in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe to HeroHush Stories, and share with someone who lives for valor. Our next tale. A whisper of courage louder than any war. Stay tuned.